it is a final now. It's the chemotherapy phase of the cancer. You think that's it, you're going to get saved. In the name of saving you, central bank intervention is chemotherapy. It's the final stages of ensuring that you absolutely, utterly destroy the immune system of the financial services globally, and it introduces and brings to an end the entire system. It is the controlled demolition. That's right. See my friend on stream here. Beautiful indeed. Hey, where are you going, dinner? Yeah, so the British Bank of England intervened in the name of saving pensions. This is chemotherapy. This is chemotherapy because you don't intervene once. You get chemotherapy a second and a third time. And the third time, the cock crows. The Judas will have betrayed 3 times. And the central banks will indeed hear that cock crow 3 times. And then, my friend, it will be the death of the system. So why is this happening? Why is this happening, and what are they doing? In the name of protecting everybody's pensions, they actually came and stepped in. They stepped in the name of protecting people's pensions. What actually happened? Well, they sold the yield down. They bought the bond market up. In other words, they were buyers of last resort on pension-based assets. So, for all of you going, oh, that's great news, the pensions were saved, it is a temporary reprieve on a tumor, on a client or a patient that's just had chemotherapy. They're battered, they're broken, but for now, the tumor's contracted. But you're about to be left with an absolutely battered immune system. What this actually means is the debt markets, which are so huge, the pension markets in Britain are 120% of GDP, guys. 120% of GDP. The pension market saving. A 4 trillion asset pool, allegedly of value asset pool. 100 people in here. Let's hit that like button. Indeed, all in crypto, doing good work in the name of saving people. Also check him out, all in crypto, on his YouTube channel. So what actually happened is there is no liquidity in the debt market. They've created trillions of the stuff, but there's no new buyers. But they're keeping the fluffed price up, the hyper-inflated fluff price up. Remember, when you have a massive amount of something, it's quite a big job of keeping it all suspended in the air, you know, because that's what's beneath it, a vacuum, a little bit of air. It should be collapsing to the bottom of the pits of hell in true valuation. But what do they do? What do they do is they maintain the price to keep the yield down. There was a run on the yields. And remember, many people saying, oh, this is just a temporary peak yields. We called it on the US 10-year first. The US 10-year, I said to you, is one of the most important things you should be watching for dollar strength, along with TLT. We shorted TLT. We expected the rates to go up on the 10-year, and it's exactly what happened. And what did you get? You got the dollar as the world currency pumping on that. And what does it do? It transfers the inflationary pressure, because everything is priced in dollars, onto the rest of the world. We've explained this countless times. So Britain ended up with double-digit inflation, and that did a lower interest rate hike than America. That's right. So what do we do? Well, let's what are we going to discuss in this video? We're going to discuss the fact that this is a beginning process. The intervention of the chemotherapy surgeon is the eventual death. It's not the saving grace. It's the death. It's part of the process of dying. And in any death, you get little runs, little spells of feeling better. So they saved the pension system for the day. But hang on a minute. If it's such a liquid market, why weren't value buyers rushing to buy pensions, assets? Why did the Bank of England have to step in? They're such beautiful little hens, don't you think? They're like Japanese emperor hens. Look at those feathers with the black trim. Anyway, I'm not sure if you can see that in such good pixelation, so I'll stop the chicken spotting for a few seconds just to eliminate. So what actually are we going to discuss? Well, we're going to discuss that this is part of the natural shoes that are dropping. And I mentioned the phrase hyper-normalization to my community today. You get numbed into every day a new crisis. You get numbed into, you think, oh, it's the new normal. It's the new normal. And you get hyper-normalized to things going wrong. And you stop taking action because, so we hear some stuff's blown up here and some stuff's blown up there. Some central banks intervened here, some central banks intervened there. But it's all, we're still carrying on. Everything's fine. No, it isn't, guys. No, it isn't. And as I say, you should be absolutely getting out of digitized money. The shoes are dropping. So here's what happens. This is the order flow in terms of things going wrong. You've now got, I don't get how British pension holders are so calm despite what happened. No, no one should be calm. It is part of the hyper-normalization. You should, if you're in Britain and anywhere else in the world that's likely to experience this, and it will come to all of them, and it's going to come to Europe. Euro has just started falling earlier than the pound. It's relatively more orderly. The pound had a super fall recently. Now, so why is this happening and what's the order of things? Well, first the central banks start intervening in the name of protecting you. What it actually means is they are now underwriting the bond market. They are underwriting the bond market. That's what's happening. They are now, we underwrite the bond market. If you go in to protect it once in an extreme event, there will be a new reason, less extreme, that will still see you go in. And so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes. So essentially, the bond market is worthless, in my opinion. You are holding something that is empirical to the survival of a debt-based system where there is more debt than people know what to do with. And if you have a state pension, if you have a generally managed pension, your UK pension is stuffed with bond. So what you want to do is you need to get out. You need to get out of debt in your pension. You have to request that you get all your pension content. You get all your pension moved into a self-invested personal pension. Eyes on me, chaps, eyes on me. Pay attention, okay. You've got to get all your assets into a self-invested pension. And you've got to get out of bonds. So you've got to get whatever you can out of your state or your private pension that is smoothed with profits. It's a lovely phrase. We smooth it out with profits. It's just gobbledygook marketing speak saying you don't get all the upside when there's good years. And we skim a bunch in the name of supposedly stumping in a bit when the markets are a little bit dull. Well, it also is the same way that they end up taking some of your money off of you. Yes, indeed. Anyway, so the fact that the pension system had to be bailed out showed that there was no one buying it. I mean, Bitcoin held its price, in fairness to Bitcoin, during that period. Amazon, someone bought Amazon shares when it dipped. Look, it fell hard. A lot of stocks fell hard, but there was still a bid. It didn't require government. It didn't require the central bank to provide liquidity. No, sir, it didn't. So how vulnerable are these things really? They're exceedingly vulnerable. Hit the likes, guys, hit the shares. You need to be out of digital assets. There's a pure gold link below. If you're in the UK, absolutely decent, guys. I'll do a follow-up interview with Joshua Searle, the CEO and provider, who I've bought from many, many times, repeatedly, delivered to my door, safe and sound, everything that should be there, paperwork, invoice, the lot. So we will never affiliate with anybody we haven't met in person and done personal business with on an extended basis, who has been shown themselves to be of a high standard and very, very critical. And I also only affiliate on the things that are true investments that I think will really stay. There are guys that have been shillmeisters for crypto, centralized exchanges all over the place that have made a lot of money and are obviously crap traders. I can think of a few on the moon right now, but we're not interested in that. Gold and silver is something I inherently believe in, especially in these times. And fiat is going to disappear, my friend, in the same way debt's going to disappear. Have a look at these little guys. cheep. Scare him a bit. Yep. So anyway, what's the next pills that are, and stones going to drop, slippers that are going to fall? It goes like this. So intervention for a bit and then calmness for a while. And you think, that's it. They saved the day. They first need you to make the association of cause and effect. They saved the day. Meanwhile, the British pension failure is entirely a central bank created scam. They almost have co-opted pension and pension fund managers to be a net dumb money buy-in for government created debt to pursue, send money to Ukraine to fight Russia, to overturn a Libyan government that's turned it into a cesspool, when it was perfectly well managed by somebody who was far more benevolent to his citizens than you were ever told. All forms of skullduggery. You paid for it, it's in your pension, and you've been given this asset, which is basically an IOU debt that will eventually be written off, in my opinion, largely to zero, and you will get an alternative, which will be UBI, providing you compliance, complacent, and stupid, and a good social score. And I'd like to suggest you guys give this a share so that we can pump it up and get a nice high number of guys on here. So what's the next shoe to drop? So initially you see the pound rally. You see the pensions not go bust yet. And you think, thank you, central banks. You really saved that day. When the chips were down, you were there. You know, I remember Warren Buffett saying something similar to the Fed during the subprime crisis, you know, as if, A, they never created it. These are guys that get heroes for pouring petrol over your wooden house, setting it alight, burning most of it down, then showing up near the end and saving you a few burned stumps by chucking a couple of pails of water on it and helping you put the fire out, and then being called the hero of the moment. And they've also insured the house and collected the gains. They've insured your house in their name. Yeah, this is the extent of the financial system you're facing right now. So what are the next things that happen? Well, the next things that happen after a minor period of recovery, and we'll likely see dollar rest a tiny bit here at the moment. It's paused and it's smashing upwards. Euro gets a rally, pound gets a little bit of a rally, oh, the pensions were saved, etc., etc. And then the contagion starts again. And what you start to see is it starts to hit other currencies. Also, you start to see inflation is at record highs. The Dutch, something close to 17% in their inflation, guys. Something close to 17% in their inflation. Recent chart released. It's unbelievable what's going on. And of course, what does that mean? Well, it means interest rates and the ECB have to go higher. If they push interest rates higher, they've created so much debt, they can't pay that debt. So, wealth taxes. Spain has announced those with more than 3 million euros will pay special wealth taxes. Well, watch that IBEX, boy, because the Spaniards, the rich Spaniards, are the ones that own the IBEX. They'll be dumping that baby big time in lieu of these expected future tax bills. There is cause and effect. All the medicine they come running with, it's the chemotherapy that finishes you off. The cancer that was through 30 years of eating contaminated foods with glycophosphates was the first problem that got you sick. The second problem, the cure, is what finishes you good and proper off. Because you see, you are actually resilient and the world is actually abundant. It takes quite a bit to kill a system. In the same way, it took a heck of a lot of nanothermite and explosives to pull World Trade 7 building down. Because people keep working, keep doing valuable things. They keep generating some value, and you know, there is some resilience. You know, the body wants to survive, and is designed to survive, and keeps looking and doing things that are trying to retain survival. So you really have to nail a wooden stake through the heart after you've already weakened the economy quite extensively, and this is what you're watching: the spontaneous detonation of random, but is created by the dollar, explosions that are going on. So given the American bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline, which should be a given, they've basically secured the fact that Germany will not get energy anywhere from Russia. So the Germans suffer, the Russians suffer because they don't get that revenue. So it's quite clear it's the Americans that have done this, who are sending gas, liquid natural gas, from America to Germany. So they've just secured a monopoly market. So the euro is destined to crash for a number of reasons. A, it was designed to crash. B, everybody is doing everything to make sure it crashes, picking a fight with Russia, state-based terrorism that sees destruction of infrastructure. I mean, we can go on and on and on all day. So what slowly starts to happen is you start to have such high inflation that they say, okay, we're going to do price controls. In the UK, they came out and said, we will do a cap on the price of energy. Now, what actually that means is that you will see inflation and everything else beyond that. They are going to be the bag holder for the cost of energy should it go any higher. So what happens is you start to have shortages because the bag is a heavy bag, because energy prices, whilst they're coming down in dollars, haven't come down as much in GBP and euros, and it's coming down also because they're killing so much demand. So the way they deal with the inflation that they created is to do monumental depression in non-economics, resetting economics, that all forms of demand. So by impoverishing you drive less, you go on holiday less, you fly less, you eat less, you buy less, you everything less. And that's one way they reduce their inflation in part. But the problem is inflation has got a bit of a contagion and a compounding effect. So the number stays super high. This is why we refer to it as hyper stagflation, contracting growth of a very high level due to the reduction of liquidity, dollars being sucked out of the system, due to the cost, due to non-fiat proliferation now. Now they're not proliferating after they have done a super spike of proliferation in 2020. Assets devaluing. So the assets continue to devalue. They want to pick up all the assets. They want to own everything and they want it on the cheap. And you are the bag holder. You're going to be the forced seller at the absolute low of your stocks, of your Bitcoin, of your silver and gold if you don't have a means of paying for things outside of silver and gold. Every single potential thing of value you could be made to be a forced seller, your land, your property. So what comes next is interest rates. So the Bank of England are likely at some point to need to do an increase in interest rates. So what's the knock-on effect of that? Well, A, they're going to have to go in at the same time like Europe, exactly like Europe. Remember Europe are increasing interest rates allegedly, but at the same time as they're increasing interest rates, they are providing liquidity to the Italian bond market. Guess what? Bank of England too. Supposedly to fight inflation, they're going to increase interest rates, yet to save a Ponzi scheme until the whole Ponzi scheme is meant to fall, until that point, they will buy debt, thereby saving your pensions. Meanwhile, they're just holding up something they're going to let fall later, till it's all fall down. Ring a rosies, a tissue, we all fall down. Isn't it funny that it was the sneeze, flu story that is the beginning of the ring of rosies, and then we all have to fall down financially 2 years later after the major proliferation. Emailed Pure Gold 2 days ago, they still have plenty. Yeah, you might have to wait on your orders, guys. Some countries are pretty high taxes and premiums on silver. You must be a big bag. Listen, get your silver, guys. Silver's probably my favorite, but if you're in South Africa, get gold. The premiums are high in South Africa for silver, for example. It's not really mined here as much. So VAT, there's kind of some workarounds around VAT in terms of metals. Believe you me, these will all look like pittances when you see the extent of the failure of the system and how much that pushes the prices on silver. All things digital will be others because it's the most proliferated. Hello from India. Yes, it must be my friends from India. Thank you for joining and welcome. So the next thing following the interest rate hikes is the collapse in housing. In the name of killing inflation, they will hike interest rates. In the name of saving your pensions, they will become buyers of the most toxic, worthless asset, debt. So they will create false markets through their interventionism, which inevitably will fail. and it's designed to fail. They know that, but it's part of pretending to help you the whole way down. You know, we really tried. We really tried. You know, we put glycophosphate in your food so that you got cancer by the time you're in your mid-50s. And then we try to save you further by giving you chemotherapy and nuking your immune system. And then you died. And, you know, not for want of effort and great cost on our behalf on your medical aid insurance. So in the essence, you're watching the financial equivalent of that. They created a debt Ponzi scheme with multiple pumps and dumps, cross-generational. And then with this huge debt, there's so much of it, there's no bid on it. They now create the bid to extend the game. So the interest rate hikes will push British people to the brink in terms of disposable income, because rents will go up as well as your mortgage payments. So your mortgage payments go up. People will become forced sellers. At the same time, they're retrenching. Meta is retrenching. I don't feel sorry for Facebook or Facebook's employees. I think you work for a beast of a company if you're a Meta employee. Same as if you work for Lockheed Martin, Pfizer, or any of the others. But, you know, everybody needs a job, and I don't hold it against you if that was the best job you could get. We've all worked in the belly of the beast at some point. But long run, you don't want to be part of that machine. But anyway, so Meta is announcing, contraction, because that causes contagion. It makes all the others feel we need to contract as well. So you're going to get more layoffs. You're going to be a forced seller because you're going to lose your job. And your interest rates have gone up and your payments gone up. It's going to be a very desperate situation. So you're going to go from being medium well off to being a forced seller of your home, and then finding that to rent something half as nice costs almost what your mortgage was costing you when you were a forced seller. And that's the game. So rentals are going to go up. So what actually happens is you get this grand de-homing. Now there's going to be a buyer of last resort at these lows at the auction, the bottomless pit buyer, with an Israeli as its CEO. And that would be good old BlackRock, Blackstone, the little black cuboid head wearing cult that are full of their shenanigans. They will be benefiting immensely. Silver and gold Britannias are unavailable in the UK, maybe by some brokers. I'm not sure if that's true or across the board, possible. So, the Indians are going to be buying big time with their festival seasons coming on precious metals. COMEX is looking like its supplies are dumping chronically, and we have a $50 premium on gold from Shanghai, where you actually get delivery, real delivery, a lot. So the Chinese are clearly buying like they've never bought before. You don't even have an equivalent gold or silver price across the globe. It's more expensive now in one part of the globe. So what does this tell you? This tells you don't be stuck with too much fiat in banking institutions. The times are getting tough. By the time they put withdrawal as transfer limits, it's too late. It's too late. Then you're nickeling and diming and getting out $100 a day on your various cards. You don't want to wait there, and that day is coming. So the interest rates spike. The welfare costs go up immensely because people have lost jobs and now need support. And these are people that generally haven't been welfare hounds. These are people that have normally always worked, but now you're in a mega depression because you've been raising the rates. Yes, the chickens are hilarious. I prefer the actual physical to XAUT. 500 ounces silver puts you in the new top 1%. It could indeed. It could indeed. Holding silver puts you in the top of the pile, my friends. Holding metals in a secure place should put you in the top of the pile. So, what comes after? What comes after is the angry, vociferous, easily turned into a riot crowd. Yo, look at baby chicks. You guys, how you doing? What comes next is the weaponized BLM Antifa type crowd start trashing stores, and commercial premises start to be left lean, cleaned out, lit, vandalized, burnt. And so cops have to come out, and army gets called out, and martial law. and then a license to shoot if you do not stay in your house according to martial law and curfews. So you get a new lockdown, only this time, having expended the fake COVID narrative and too much information having exposed that scam, you get the green lockdowns. No one's to move, no one's to fly, stay at home, you have to be where you're meant to be. It's nighttime, you may not go out. We're having a bad day, the looters are out, there's too many fires to put out. Anyone who's on the street during the day in the following hours could be shot on sight. You know, stories like this. And this is the implementation of, in essence, martial law. Hello, little fellas. And so that's the game. That's the game. And price controls. Oh, to save you from inflation. No, you fucking created this fucking inflation, you lying fucking cheats. You printed and proliferated. You picked a war with Russia. You bifurcated the global supply chain. You brought in a green agenda, carbon attacks. You killed investment in petroleum, energy and gas during the COVID's environment. You did this, and now you're claiming to save me in the name of finishing off the system. It's always in the name of working for you. I care. We am trying to help the poorest and the hardest hit. You'll get all these pontifying politicians looking regal and lovey-dovey and leftist and bleeding heart. We're here to help the poor. We want to help the poor. I'm here because I have empathy for the poor, people who cannot pay their energy bills. That's why we support ZIO, World Economic Forum, proliferate fiat currency pump and dump scheme and racket that created 6 or 7 trillion, destroyed your currency, created absolute inflation, killed all investment in energy over 2 years, crashed the price so low that now we're going to, in the name of the greedy energy companies, we are going to tax them. Because hard, did you bail them out when you trashed their industry with lockdowns? So now they're making the profit that they should have made during the lockdown period, all coming at once. I'm not a fan of energy companies. They're the Rockefeller tax, and they're all owned. It's all part of a pantomime. In the name of helping you, I'm going to beat the man. He hurt you. Garbage, garbage, garbage. You did it all, and you are allocating the blame according, always never pointing at yourself, always pointing at everything else. And it's the left hand criticizing the right hand. These energy companies are essentially the Rockefeller tax foundations in this globalized world. We've already had a globalized tax for many, many years, since OPEC, the dollar standard, and the Saudi petrodollar agreement. You have tax. That's why oil was $130, $140 during the peak pump of property in 2007. They were skimming some of that extra profit you were making. So the game is, what do? When do the nukes fly, says somebody. This is the dollar system, and they're having a tantrum. Well, the dollar is weaponizing and punishing the rest of the world. And this is what goes down. The rest of the world starts to wet the bed. And the British pension system is one, and it's the same for the European pension system. So what do you need to do? You need to build wealth in these times. I had some guy, you gave your brokers links or for gold and for trading. You shouldn't be shilling an affiliate. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be helping people. We are helping people. Only anything that I do and have used myself do I put there. And I have traded with those brokers to substantial gains on the USD Korean won, particularly the USD JPY to a degree, shorting the crypto markets, etc., etc. And I have converted those profits into precious metals. That's my game and my suggestion to everybody watching this. You are being given an opportunity of extreme moves. Exploit it, take it, make the money, and remember, counterparty risk will eventually see those profits lost, because those brokers will quite likely go under when the other side of your trades collapse, or when the banking accounts that are supposedly your gains suddenly go bust. Remember, all profits and all money that are digits in a computer are highly precarious. You should regularly turn them into physical cash, physical silver and gold. Ideally physical dollars if you can, but if you're not in America, that's harder. There's still some options, but it's harder. And maybe some USD, BUSD, hoping that will survive, but it's all digital. So you should physical cash, physical silver and gold. And it should not be held by vaults, and you should be prepared to defend it to the point of you would defend Custer's last stand of defending asset base. To speculate on it right now, I haven't, but I have felt that it will probably outperform, as I felt Binance could outperform. But as I'm expecting most of crypto to take another downturn at some point, not necessarily right this second. ADA just looks super, super sick. It could go early. But the general crypto crash, I think, while the dollar's pausing for a bit here, and maybe has a rest, you could get actually rallies first in the crypto. So I want my timing to be right for leverage trading. So that's the game, fine people. 455 of you, 166 likes. Truly appreciate that. Thank you. When will be the best time to pay off pound debt? Well, it depends what you're earning. If you earn dollars, the more the pound falls, the less you'll pay. And whilst you're going to get a snap up rally here, and you've had a major hammer reversal, in time you're going to form, in my personal opinion, a continuation pattern and go lower. So there's no way the Bank of England becomes the sole buyer of all British debt and supports all 4 trillion pension markets and the entire bond market forever without killing the pound. Yield curve control. Anytime a central bank is seeking to maintain that an interest rate does not go beyond a certain level because it destroys pensions, they are doing yield curve control. The fact that the Japanese do it at 0.25% and the British will do it at 4%, that's a detail. They're both still intervening to save the system, and that is yield curve control. If you're trying to manage an interest rate, it is yield curve, the interest rate, control. That means the bank wants to set it. And I'm going to do a YouTube on charts, and I will show you how during the Euro-Swiss franc short trade that we called in 2009, prior to the Greece crisis being known as the Greece crisis, it all came out in 2010, around about January, where the Swiss were already intervening, but weren't admitting that they were intervening. Later, as it fell, where they said, we will intervene, and bounced the market and threw a whole bunch of money at it and bounced the market, is against the central banks. And you know that old adage, never fight the Fed, never do this. In reset times, and when you're not dealing with the Fed itself, which is the biggest and the final one, when you're dealing with these other central banks trying to save their currency from the intended weaponization of the dollar, you trade against them. I traded against the Swiss National Bank, the Euro Swiss franc, and continued to go long Swiss franc and short the euros. And I held and held and held, and it was an absolute rainmaker trade. And you are going to get the exact same on the Japanese yen. You've already had its part one on the Japanese yen, despite their interventions. Every central bank must be faded until eventually it's the Fed's turn, and then they fail too. Let me say that again. And I have done this before in the face of it, because they are just a big participant in the market, and technical analysis shows their actions just like anybody else's. And they are giveaway stupid. And I will prove that to you in a future YouTube on the Euro Swiss franc short trade. And I will show you where they were intervening. And then when they admitted they would consider intervening, even though they had already been doing it. Francis might possibly be my favorite commentator on the internet. Hey, John, thank you for that. We appreciate it. Give us a share. That's currency for us. Hit the like. That's currency for us. It's not hard. That thumb up there, puppy licks, go and do it. So the active intervention of the central banks into the game of yield curve control is the chemotherapy and the stage of reset-onomics view, and you should go against them. Don't do it now at the bottom after a big hammer, but you must prepare. You need a course and a program. You can join our community for when the pound will again be a potential short, but it's not yet, and when it's likely to set up. And we'll be watching for the renowned Hunt Volatility Funnel inverted variety on GBP USD and upside varieties on many others that will be giving us the triggering event for a deeply tight risk and a highly expansive reward trade. Yep, we could do the comedy if we focus on it. I don't want to be too stupid today. I don't want the YouTube to get banned. I don't want to say too many cranky things, but I do indeed want to tell you how the slippers are going to fall in this game. And the treatment is the death, the chemotherapy of the failing system. And this, you are witnessing a controlled demolition. 21 years after 9/11, 3 7-year cycles after 9/11, you are witnessing the controlled demolition. And the intervention in the name of saving it is part of the death now. You just don't get in at that point because they're still a big participant. They still have more resources than you. Your trade can be, they can be wrong on the market far longer than you can afford to be right if you get in at the wrong time. So you have to catch these key moments where we pivot and spill. And that requires watching the footprints in the sand in the market itself, the setups and the charts, and understanding the theory. And that's what we're there for. TheMarketSniper.com, book a call. Hit the link on the right. This is reset, guys. You owe it to yourself in something that's going to happen anyway to short World Trade 7 down to 0 from 40 floors. At least take the money. You can't stop it from being blown up. Those charges have been there for a long time, and it's not your foot on the plunger. You owe it to yourself to get the money for that event, though, and to buy physical silver and gold with trustworthy parties, and the two that we utilize are listed below. And you can even do, for now, if you want to do $50, £50, 50 euros a month, you can even do it on Bullion Vault, paper gold, but not an ETF, and then convert it from when you have a lump sum into physical delivered to you. So there's no excuse. If you can't afford $50 a month, you should start finding a way to do something useful. And even if it means cleaning streets, start there and work your way up. You should be dollar cost averaging into a Bullion Vault account, and then every time you've got 10 grand, you get a physical lump delivered to you physically. You sell off that internet gold, and that way you get the value of the paper price movement in the interim, and then you cash out into the physical. And that is something you hold and you sit on. And then all the self-finance, the supply chain, the food, the water, the solar panels, the rest of it, which is, I don't want to get into the other prepping aspects. This is a financial takedown. The central bank involvement is part of the takedown. It is the chemotherapy treatment that kills the patient in the end. It is an important stage, and it's now becoming quite common. So now you have central banks intervening in Europe on the Italian bonds, you have Japan doing yield curve control, and now you have Britain doing yield curve control at a higher level to try, support, and save in the name of saving you. All we do is try save. We're full of good intent. We're your saviors, and you just hate us for doing our damnedest. You don't understand financial systems. No, we do. We understand it pretty good. We understand all the poison pills you've put in this body and all the toxic disease you've created, and now you call the doctor. We understand just fine, thank you very much. We're getting into physical, and that, my friends, is what Russia did. And from then onwards, with the oil and the gold, their currency is now secure against the dollar devaluation. And you will have seen this in practice. When did the damage end for the ruble, my friends? Answer me that one question, and you have the golden answer. It's not what they say, it's what they do and what works. What did one nation state do, and how did it turn out? Up until then, it lost value through to 160. I remember when it was sub 20. It lost value to 160. Then they said, have your treasuries back. We're hooking it to gold and oil. And guess what happened after that? It's actually strengthening against the dollar in a time and an environment where everything else is being destroyed. What does that tell you? Think about that hard. Then look at that pure gold link and say, isn't it time I got started? Isn't it time I added another bunch? That's all I've got for you guys. I will be doing more updates. I will do a chart-based one on the intervention of central banks and how they always lose in the end. They end up dumb money liquidity providers for their hedge fund friends. You saw the previous YouTube. The central banks actually represent you and your money. They destroy your money and your currency by being the dumb money liquidity providers for the opposite side of the trade, their cohort hedge fund macro friends. That's the game. You can join the hedge fund friend side and go against the central banks and make small amounts in your own name that you can convert to precious. You can watch it all happen and say, how unlucky am I? Or you can say, we're absolutely wrong, and see how it turns out for you. Thank you for watching. Keep sharing, keep liking. We appreciate it. The guys below are golden. We use them reliably, consistently. You can too. Get in touch. Until next time,